Hey, everybody. So, for the people that don't know who Gary is, which I'm sure it's probably only maybe 1 or 2 people here.
Who doesn't know my spiel? Raise your hand. It's okay.
Oh, we got 1. We got about.
Keep
oh man, they putting them up, man.
Raise them up. Keep going. Don't be scared.
Look at that. All content is new content.
Everybody's gonna be.
All content is new content.
Yeah.
You see that? So for the people that don't know, Gary, can you give us the quick 2-minute, 3-minute rundown of who you are and why you're the OG of social media?
I'm an entrepreneur. For the ones that don't know who I am, I'm sorry to bore the ones that have heard us a bunch, but I was born in the former Soviet Union, came here when I was a kid, lived in a studio apartment in Queens, the size of this. Usually I say smaller than the stage I'm on, but this is about right. My family moved to New Jersey because my dad started working at a liquor store, and my dad eventually owned a small liquor store in Springfield, New Jersey. I grew up super entrepreneurial, lemonade stands, baseball cards, fell in love with wine and the notion of people collecting it when I was 16, 17, launched an e-commerce website very early on in 1996, built my dad's and family liquor store business from a $3 to a $60 million business, started making YouTube videos a couple months after YouTube came out, became somewhat internet famous because of that, jumped on Twitter early on, became one of the 25 most followed people on it, before Ashton came and all the real celebrities came. And then started investing in things like Twitter, Tumblr, and Uber, just kind of a marketer, businessman. Started an agency 4 years ago with my brother AJ, a social media digital agency called Vaynerchuk. In the last 2 years, we've gone from 20 to 300 people. So kind of on my second business, building in that kind of 8-figure range. So entrepreneur, good guy, Jets fan. Fuck.
It's up, man.
I take it from the man from Boston. Shut down here. The rest of you, this is New York. Come on.
So what we do here is we love to bring entrepreneurs and shop callers like Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk to the community and let people have at it. So for the first 30 minutes or so, I'm going to ask them a couple questions, probably 3 or 4, and then we'll open it up to the crowd so you can get 3 or 4 questions in there. Number 1 rule, don't ask him for money. You're not going to get it. Like, not here.
You might, I'm crazy.
Well, if he does give you money, the fast starter gets 10%.
It's a small bit.
We'll go light on people, man. We want people to win, So before we get into it, let's just get into it, right?
Sure.
Let's get into some social media. So I would say a few weeks ago, Beyonce dropped the album.
Yeah.
Right? And she did it without telling anybody.
Yeah.
Of course, she has a big, huge brand that she could exploit, right? But how did social play a part in that? Like, how important was it for her to have that social media outlet?
I don't think, believe it or not, and I'm a big cheerleader for social, I think it helped that it was all over iTunes and in front of all of our faces. I mean, she didn't have to tweet it once for us to know about it. So I wouldn't say social played a huge part about it. I don't think Beyonce does social well, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of elitist at best. I don't think she's engaging with her community or doing anything different on social than she does on traditional media. So I don't think social had a lot to do with it. I think what had a lot to do with it was she's fucking legit, has been famous for a long fucking time, and put out a lot of good content. So I don't think social deserves credit for me, right? Who had no platform and nobody knew, and I used the tools to build myself up. But Beyonce at this level, I think had more to do with the exposure she was able to get from iTunes and then word of. Now, where social came in is if Michael Jackson did the same thing 10 years ago, what social did with Beyonce was when that came out, people found it interesting. And what social media really is, guys, the way at least I think about it, is it's the plumbing for word of mouth in our society, right? Social media is plumbing. Right? And we love to tell each other things. And so what happened was, as it caught buzz, social amplified the awareness. So maybe there was an awareness factor, maybe whether it was more or faster, that's where social played into a play. But she had the brand equity and infrastructure for that to be successful. Maybe people bought more albums quicker because they became aware of it quicker in their feeds because of social. But I wouldn't say social sold those albums.
So do you think social played more of I guess it's not really a jab, and it was really just a right hook for her because she didn't really engage or anything. She just used it to, used it as a catalyst to serve more outlets.
I think word of mouth sells stuff. I always have. I think anybody here, if you're a salesperson, business person, you live in the world, you realize that every person here has spent their hard-earned money on things because somebody they trust or know said something was good. Whether it was a restaurant, an album, a beverage, whatever it is. We are now living in a world where we all think that our word of mouth is valuable, right? Like we default. Like if we're all watching the same show, like we're all gonna watch the Super Bowl, and when something happens, you believe you're entitled to whip out your phone and give your 2 cents on that fucking cash, right? That's how we roll now. There's an entitlement to our 2 cents that we never had before. And so it's creating an enormous volume of word of mouth. We're consuming each other's opinions and thoughts. It's changing the course of the way we make decisions, not only about what we buy, but how we live. It's very intriguing times right now on how our opinions are being formed by each other, not just by, the mainstream media.
So the last interview we had, we talked about the return of investment on social, and how people were playing out lazy, like they didn't really want to put in that engagement.
Yeah.
For the people that have families and have full-time jobs that are trying to leverage social,
yeah.
How do they go about training to get themselves ready for social? Like, do they set out time to actually work?
Let's define social, right? Let's take a step back before I answer the question to get everybody on the same page. Here's how I think about social media, right? There's people that create content. I do a lot of that, right? I have a thought, I'm gonna write something, I'm gonna make a video, I'm gonna put it out there. There's people that consume content and comment on it. All of us do that, right? You see something, you like it, you heart it, you say something, you reply to it. We jump on top with our content to something that was established. And then there's the third part, which is the only part I don't do well, which is then there's people who DJ content, right? Now, to me, that's the one that's most interesting for everybody in the room if you don't have enough time. The notion that you curate content, that you're consuming all day, and then you're repassing on information, that DJ move, I think that's a very attractive thing. I don't do that a lot. I mean, a lot of people here follow me on Twitter. I put out 115,000 tweets in my life. The amount of times that they've been retweets or links to other people's stuff has been very minimum. It's not my strength. But there's plenty of people, I think of Jason Hirschhorn's email list, right? To me, if you know who that guy is, he's got a great email list. Now, he spends a lot of time DJing. He's consuming content for 7 hours a day so that he can send an email that has 11 links on it in the morning. I find that massively valuable. If you're struggling to figure out there what you want to say, please give a lot of thought to, wait a minute, I can consume and then put out the best of or my 2 cents on top of. So those are the 3 ways to kind of play in social. If you don't have time, well, you may not be good at it. It's like, if you don't have time to exercise, you're not gonna have fucking muscles, right? I can't help you if you're deciding to do something else. Listen, I don't know everybody's situation. There's plenty of people here who have 2 jobs and rent and a student loan, and I can't sit here and say, figure it out. I get it. If you're only sleeping 4 hours a day to begin with to just get by, I can't sit on my high horse here and be like, do this, do that. But here's what I will say. We have never lived in a time like this before. The internet, here's a good example. I just left my office. I was in a meeting with 7 of the Vine celebrities that I represent. For the ones that intimately know me, know that I have a Vine talent agency called Grape Story, where we represent 25 Vine celebrities. I'm sitting in a room right now with 7 people, right before I got here, kids that 1 year ago sat in front of me, and we were reminiscing about some of the stories I told them. And they were like, one guy, Ryan from Boston, he was like, you told me I could make a living by making Vine videos. And I left here and I was like, that guy's an asshole. And he goes, and now Ryan made $80,000 in the last, year. So I sat there and I was thinking, it's incredible. We live in a time where these 6 teenagers that I was just hanging out with, some of them are gonna make 6 figures this year on making 6-second videos, right? I mean, literally, one guy was babysitting for $12 an hour. We just signed him a check for $100,000 from 4 brands to make these 10 videos. We live in a crazy world. We live in a world where the internet, forget about Vine, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, Instagram. We live in a world where the internet internet is a platform that all of us have access to. And if we can create something people want on it in any of those platforms or in any other way, we have a chance to make money. Our parents and our great-grandparents did not have that option. If they were working a full-time job, they didn't have the option to come home at 7 p.m. and in the confines of their home build their future. And we do. You just have to decide if you're willing to cut out the hour of playing Madden or going bowling or watching The Voice. You know, you've got to make those decisions. And for me, going back to the first book I wrote, Crush It, I think we're so damn lucky to have this opportunity that if you don't love what you've got going on, that you have to allocate an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 or how much hustle you can put in at night when you get home to try to do one of these things, whether it's writing or making videos or creating something. We're just very fortunate. We're very fortunate. I mean, every one of the kids in my office right now are in school or have a job and wouldn't have been able to do this without the internet and Vine. They wouldn't have been able to start their, I mean, people used to have dreams like, I'm gonna start a coffee shop, right? Or I'm gonna start a liquor store, or like, that cost money and unlimited time. Like, it was not practical in 1990 to do your thing. It's very practical for us to do our thing. That is a big ass deal.
And for people that don't have too much time, like, how do you suggest they use applications like Buffer or like Hootsuite to maybe post, maybe some of their jabs, but in a scheduled format?
I hate it.
You hate it?
Why? Because I think social is human, and I think I have friends who schedule shit, and then something bad happens. Like Nelson Mandela passes away. Do you think that's your 2 minutes later they got their scheduled tweet like, buy my shit? Right? But I'm serious, we've all seen it, right? Like, even worse than that, that was at least borderline consumable. After the Boston Massacre, the bomb, the amount of friends that I had that scheduled tweets, like literally 3 minutes after fucking an explosion at the Boston Marathon, they're hawking their shit, buy my book, do this. Listen, all of you know I've been pimping the shit out of my book for 6 months, but if something bad happened, I wouldn't do it a minute later. It's tacky, it's inappropriate, and I think scheduled tweets or anything of that nature creates the ability for you to not become human, which can dilute all your efforts very quickly.
What if you set some time to be human, like flexibility, to take advantage of the, schedule the tweets, but still be able to jump
No, fuck that.
Let's take it completely out.
But if you've got 11 minutes, I mean, that's how I roll. The reason I've been able to engage with so many of you and engage and consume, hey, I'm leaving to go see Gary Vee from Boston early. The reason I'm consuming that is because I'm finding minutes of time. Like, when I'm in a meeting and I go take a piss, I take my phone out while I'm walking to the bathroom and try to reply to somebody. Like, you're trying to find angles. On the way here, I would have spent 11 minutes reading what you were all saying about this talk, so I could have called some of you out, but I was running late, so I had to throw one of my employees into my car and have a meeting on the way here. But I would have normally spent those 11 minutes, and I think, listen, there's no substitution for putting in the work. Either you're gonna do this or you're not. If you're looking for automatics, don't care about social. Do advertising. Do banner retargeting and search engine optimization and SEM and email marketing. Do the stuff that's okay if you don't act human. This, social, human, period, or you will lose.
So what did Mike Rooney do correct that you remember him saying he was going to drive from Boston over here?
It's just a moment of time, right? Like, I don't know, like bow tie, just like you brought it. I mean, just, I don't know, just like, I'm so thankful that people would drive to come and see me talk or show me. It's Friday night. Yeah. Like, you guys could all be doing a lot of cool ass shit tonight, right? And families and all this stuff, and like people coming on their second, third, and all the way to the back, wait, their 15th time seeing me speak. Do you know what that feels like? I'm thankful. I'm grateful. And so if people are going to do that, I'm going to take the 3 minutes to read what people say and the 10 seconds to smile back and say thank you. And so I'm not unaware of how gifted I've been to be able to have a room show up and hear me talk, and that's just a blessing. And I take it very seriously, and I get very mad at people, and I did when I had 100 followers. When I had 100 followers on Twitter, I was like, 100 people care what I said. This is awesome, right? Like, the amount of people that, because they see other people have 1 million, don't respect the 572 followers they have, and they're worried about how am I gonna get to 1 million, that's dumb thinking. The reason you're not getting to 1,000 is because you're not respecting your 572. The way I got to 1 million was respecting my 40, which then turned into my 80, which then turned into my 160.
Cool. So we actually interviewed Jason Calganis, and he released a piece talking about YouTube and how YouTube, monetizing on YouTube might not be the best thing for people.
Yep.
You're always constantly dropping videos, dropping Medium posts. How do you use those things to monetize on your hustle, since those things don't really belong to you, or you can't do like email collection and things like that?
This is where people are confused. I am thrilled to do anything, anywhere, if it's bringing me awareness to convert later down the line. The biggest problem right now in the game is that everybody wants last point of distribution attribution to their sale. What did this talk do for me? Nothing. Like, it did the books that I got, the $100.
Yeah.
It's me giving you love because I like you, right, and your crew. It's 40 people here are gonna know me a little bit more for the next time. It's the 11 people that didn't know me at all. Fuck you guys. They now know me. They now know me, right? They now know me. So I'm not worried about what this specific hour on a Friday night where my wife was like, what are you doing? Like, I thought you were gonna be home earlier on Fridays. What it's going to do for me this moment. I'm worried about what it's gonna do for me long term. The reason I write on Medium is if I write a good piece on Medium, it will go viral, and then everybody that goes to medium.com, they will see one of the top 10 most read articles that day. And there's a lot of people going to medium.com that have never heard of me. Like, all of them. Like 99% of people still don't know who I am. So the reason I write for Medium and the reason I write for LinkedIn's influencer program is when I get something that goes viral, they have triggers that allow people who've never heard of me. If you write one of the 5 top articles on LinkedIn, if you've read some of the LinkedIn articles, you see on the right side, they show the top 5 articles that day. That's allowed me to reach people that have never heard of me. So the reason I do things like YouTube when, I don't know, everybody's on it, and I can be discovered, you do things, it's crazy to think only one chess move. Nobody here really lives their lives like everything you do at that moment. What's the ROI of that? I understand that I can't convert on my website at that moment, but if you build, I'm just trying to fry bigger fish. If I'm trying to build a big enough brand, I get paid $70,000 to give a 1-hour keynote. I would never get that if I was worried about selling like $4 ebooks on my fucking domain page.
Very true. Very true.
So I'm just playing long game. I think we're all a lot younger. I don't know, who here is retiring in the next 10 years? I don't mean you're gonna fucking kill it and retire. I mean you're fucking old and you're finished. But think about that. One gentleman who I don't believe, but I love him. So one gentleman, I'll believe it now. One gentleman, but the rest of us are all planning on grinding and working a decade from now. Do you know what the world looked like 10 years ago? We weren't even fully cell phoned out yet, let alone smart, let alone social. There was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, it didn't exist. So I think long term, I think really long term. I'm not worried about tomorrow, and so I make so many of my decisions on that, which is why it's confusing to most. But I just want to let the cards play out the way they do, and it's why I do a lot of stuff like this to document it, to leave it for the next generation to see that you can also win by running the marathon. You don't need to sell Instagram for $1 billion 500 days in. Everybody's trying to chase that 1 in a trillion. There's just such a guaranteed way if you put in the work and you bring in quality and you keep doing it and you grind and you hustle day in and day out. That's how many more people win and succeed than the one-offs that happen once in a generation.
Does that tie into to our previous interview when you mentioned don't chase the quick dollar, chase the long dollar? Like you said, don't leave the dollar bill on the floor when you can chase the $100 bill next week.
Yeah, guys, listen, I'm hyper and all that, but God, am I patient? Because you got time. And for me, to be honest with you, I'm much more about my legacy than my currency. That's a big thing for me. doing it the right way matters. There's a lot of people making money on the internet marketing, and their spouses and significant others are embarrassed how they make their cash, right? There's a lot of cheap ways to make a quick buck. I know plenty of people that have got beautiful watches and fast fucking cars and houses, and they just spam their way there, and they're not proud. And look, when Janine whatever her name, Rocco, right, like that, you guys know what I'm talking about, the tweet with the girl that went on the plane to Africa. Sacco, thank you. Like, you know, I remember that day when that was all going on, everybody was freaking out on Twitter, and they're like, she's gonna get fired. She's gonna get fired, right, for her tweet, her racist tweet. And I was like, people, the last thing this woman has to worry about is her being fired. This is her legacy for the rest of her life. These 8 billion articles, her children one day are gonna read that. Like, I think, look, let me say a couple things. One, 90% of the people in this room, your grandfather was racist, right? But nobody knows it because it's lost in history. That script got changed. All the dumb shit that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents did, lost in history. Changed. Telephone would change the game, right? All the dumb shit we're doing, documented. Pictures, tweets, thoughts. I remember Tamar Martin, after that verdict came through, I was reading tweets. I was DMing my friends, I'm like, you're gonna regret that one. You're gonna regret that one. You're gonna regret that one. I don't think people are thinking about legacy enough. This is a long game. You're gonna have, when your 14-year-old granddaughter rolls up on you in 40 years and it's like, Grandpa, did you say this? You're gonna be like, fuck. So I think about everything like that. I think long term, I think how do I want to be remembered? I'm thinking about it right now. I'm thinking about who's going to be watching this video. What can I say that might change them, might help them, might make them make one smarter move? That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to be now.
Cool. Last time we spoke also, you spoke about quality over quantity when it comes to mentions and shout outs on Twitter and social media. Justin Bieber just got arrested, right, for doing craziness that we would all love to do and not get caught.
Yeah.
How does that play into his brand now? Because those are negative mentions, but will he get the team?
Poorly. I mean, poorly and positively. Like, let's not be confused, right? There's a certain demo that loves that and his bad boy play. You know how girls are when they're 16. They like the bad boy. So there's certain things that are positive, but on the flip side, there's plenty of negative. I mean, he's losing sponsorship opportunities. I'm in these meetings with these major brands. I mean, he's losing money if that's what, but he doesn't value that anymore. He's got so much of it. He's a kid. He's going through his normal things. I mean, this is stuff we see. What everybody worries about. This is going to affect my son. I hate when parents allow Justin Bieber to raise their child, right? Like Bieber's gonna be fine. What I'm more mad about is all the parents that are tweeting like, this is terrible. He's a huge influence on my daughter. I'm like, you're terrible. Like you need to make sure that he's not the driving. Like, do you think your daughter is now gonna smoke weed and drive a Lamborghini because Bieber did? So I'm really mad at parents in general, right? Like I hear from parents a lot, like, this technology is bad, right? Technology is bad. Like, my kid's on this all day. I'm like, you're the parent. I'm like, when your child's 11, it's called a dictatorship. You can do whatever you want, right? And of course you want to like not make it too negative or this and that, but there's just so much misguidance. Snapchat. I started talking about Snapchat 2 years ago and its value and why I thought it was going to be big. I got a lot of hate mail from parents saying things like, Gary, you can't be promoting Snapchat. All the kids are sexting on it. They're sending naked pictures to you. And I would reply real calm, be like, dear Mrs. Thompson, does your son, your 12-year-old son you just mentioned, does he have a smartphone? Yes. I'm like, does he have Wi-Fi? Like, he has internet access? Yes. Dear Mrs. Thompson, you need to not worry about fucking Snapchat. Your son, in 2 seconds, can go to jizzhut.com. And that's what I mean. This happens all the time, right? Like people just, they read headlines, right? Like all my brains are like, oh, just read a headline. Facebook's going to be out of business in 3 years. So I'm like, okay. I mean, like, we just read headlines, like, and there's too much headline. And listen, I realized this I remember when everybody said Facebook would be out of business in 3 years after it came out, just like MySpace, where they didn't look into was who was running the company. MySpace sold to a corporation. This is, they don't take in the depth of the variables. So, on the Bieber front, listen, here's what's going to happen. Short term, he's going to lose out on millions of dollars on sponsorship opportunities. The worst thing that would happen to him is Scooter Braun, who discovered him, who, I should say is a friend of mine. He's a good guy. If Scooter really wants to help him, and and if he loses Scooter in his life, that would be bad because he's been a very positive influence, in my opinion, to the benefit of Scooter. He's not Mother Teresa. But long term,
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine if he cleans up his life. Some people do, some people don't.
So there's a lot of new people that found us, the Phat Startup, and came to this event because of you. So you're our jab, right? So a lot of people don't know about our last question, which you already answered, but we might change it up, we might not, but I want them to hear it. Right? So you have the 24-hour roundtable. You get to pick somebody in hip hop and somebody in business for 24 hours to pick their brains. Who is it and why? Is it still Vince McMahon and KRS-One, or did you kind of like switch that up a little bit?
Vince still always sits at my table. I think Vince McMahon, I think storytelling is what sells product. And to me, the fact that Vince McMahon consolidated an industry and sells stories to men about men running around in a spring in tights, I think it's incredible. I think, he built $1 billion business on a men's soap opera, right? I find that fascinating. So, storytelling on the WWE level, I think is very, very, very impressive. You know what I'd throw into, I love KRS-One, and you know what, they can listen to the interview to get that, because I'll send some traffic your way, but I really like to throw in Kendrick Lamar now. Here's why. What he's been doing over the last 6 months about the way he's positioned his brand and his competitive nature, I so get it. I so get the notion of, I really want every person in this room right now to have the best life ever, to build the biggest businesses of all time. All that. As long as mine's just a little bit bigger. and that's just my competitive spirit. And I think that, if I had the skills that Kendrick had, that what he's been doing by showing up on other people's albums with the pure intent to clown them on their own track, there's something competitive about that I like, and I want to tap into that conversation.
And you're talking about the controllers.
I think I'm talking about what he's been doing the whole year, right? I think he's just been very smart in the way he's positioned his brand. And I don't know, I love the limelight. I love the fact that when he's on better albums, better artists, better lyrics, you can literally feel him elevating his game. I'm the same way. To me, I want the chip. To me, it's about the climb, right? The reason I can be patient and long-term and all that stuff I spewed to you guys is I actually don't like the victory. I grew up a Yankees fan. Charlie Hayes caught that ball in '96, and I was out, right? I love the climb. I love being a Jets fan. I love fucking losing. I love the climb. I do. I like the climb. I like the climb so much, and so, yeah, it's just.
Well,
I love the thrill of the chase. I really do. I think, once you get there, there's something. My wife makes so much fun of me. Every time we go on vacation, I'm so pumped the week before. Literally, the wheels hit the ground, and I look at her and I'm like, fuck. We just got there. There's something. It's just the way I'm wired. I love the climb. I loved going into the agency world. If you read the articles about Vaynermedia in 2009, Gary Vee, just because he's got 800,000 Twitter followers, thinks it's going to be so easy to build an agency. These are real companies, Gary Vee. This is real shit now. I just read that shit. I get so pumped. Sometimes for sport, I'll just go to Amazon and read my 1-star reviews of my book. Gary Vee's full of shit. What's he ever done? You fucking kidding me? Before I wrote the outline for Jab, 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 Right Hook, I read every single negative review of Crush It and Thank You Economy, my first 2 books, just to get me pumped to do a better job. I love being underestimated. I love being trolled. I love when people say that I don't have it, I'm full of shit, I'll never get there, I can't. That feeds the living shit out of me.
Just as a testament as to how much work you put into social media, we purchased your book. I think we pre-purchased it in October, and we didn't get it until the last week of last year. We had people at the company calling us telling us, hey man, Gary did such a great job that he oversold. Like that's insane.
Yeah, I
that's
love
a testament to that.
I was a little mad at because my publisher fucked it up.
We were tight too, man. We were scared.
But yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that they were like, listen, here's how your last 2 books sold. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's going better. I feel good about this one. Like, no, every author says that. So like, yeah, there was a part of me that loved it. I didn't like that people weren't getting their books and people were getting frustrated, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing, for me, everybody's wired differently. I don't feel like I deserve anything. Let me tell you one thing that really pisses me off about startup culture right now. Everybody who's starting a company right now because of this bubble we're living in feels like they're entitled to customers, right? I don't feel like I'm entitled to anything. Starting tomorrow morning, everything I've done forever before, I feel my entitlement's 0. It's natural for me to work and grind. I feel like all the good content and all the good interviews and all the good stuff I've done, as soon as I walked in here, I felt like that meant nothing, that I had to do a better job. Again, whether you saw me 2 nights ago, 15 times, whatever, I've got to do it again. I've got to bring something out. I've got to talk about something different for that individual person and for the collective because I'm thankful and entitlement pisses me off to no end. And I think we're living through a huge entitlement push right now. Like, I don't give a fuck that you launched an app. Good, what do you want, a fucking cookie? Like good, now go and get customers, now deliver value, like go build your business. There's a shocking entitlement factor right now. Everybody thinks just because you were smart enough to start an internet business, everyone's starting an internet business. Everybody's got an app. Everybody's got a business card. Keep your fucking business card.
So, in true Phat startup fashion, we love to jab away like Gary. We could have brought him on stage and asked him a ton of questions for us, but we would love to open up the questions to the crowd and maybe get 2 or 3 people to really hit him with some questions. But if you ask him a question, make him sweat. Please don't ask him money. So, is there anybody out there?
Check. All right, let's make some noise for Gary Vaynerchuk. Come on, everybody, let's do that party. Let's also give a shout out to my man from Phat Store, my man. Come on, let's keep it on. We're going to bring up Jay Soul right now from Phat Startup, and he's going to select the people to ask the questions to the realest man on this planet.
Thank you. Now we're going to take 4 questions. Whoever has a question, please line up right on the side.
We can do more than 4.
We can do more than 4?
Yeah.
You got time? With time? Are you jabbing away on time?
I can't leave just yet.
All right, that's right.
All right, line it up.
That's right. You got to set us the max, though. Because we'll be here all night.
I'll show you something.
Zach, you got some?
2? Yeah.
3, how many?
Go ahead. You can go up to 9. I'll do 9.
Just generally, I'm Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, so just you're talking about like the negative criticism that you get and how you it helps your motivation.
Yeah.
How do you feel about for all of us or even for you directly responding to negative criticism or comments on articles or anything
I
like
think a
that?
lot of people here that know that that's my first move. As a matter of fact, I've spent a lot of time in the last 12 months trying to do a better job responding to positive feedback because I was just spending all my time feeding the trolls, right? Like feeding the negative instead of thanking the positive. You can get caught in that game. Listen, let me start with a very different angle on why I respond to people's negative comments. Because for the most part, I believe that they believe it. I believe that they think I stink, or that this was bad, or I was wrong on this. So the first thing I would say is, I'm a little bit concerned that all of a sudden, anybody who disagrees with you or leaves a negative comment is a troll. I look at it as somebody who just has a different point of view. And I respect, if I'm gonna take all the accolades, I better take the negative feedback. Not to mention, you can learn from it. My negative feedback over the last 8 years on the internet has formed me. I've changed on certain things. I've gotten tighter. I try not to exaggerate ever because everything's on the record. I'm doing everything, I've gotten better because of it. So the first thing I would say to you, man, is, if somebody's malicious or using slurs or inappropriate, that changes the variable. But first and foremost, you should respect somebody else's point of view. I think it's healthy for you to address it and engage. It can teach you something. I think it has enormous value. I respond to my negativity an awful lot, and I would tell you that my 10 biggest fans started off with "fuck you, Gary V." I think that there's a lot of value in that engagement. You gotta take the good with the bad, and I think it's beneficial. I would recommend more people reading into it and engaging with it.
Cool.
I really would.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Great answer.
I love your sweater, man.
Thank you.
It's legit.
H&M.
Nice. What's your name?
My name's Obi Akira. I read all three of your books. All three of them were great. I liked your last one the best.
Thank you.
My question is, what do you think the implications that the new rules on crowdfunding would have on social media and
You mean the Jobs Act? Like the
Yeah.
fact that we can all put $500 now into a startup?
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's going to mean that there's going to be more shit product. And I mean that. I think we're going to start seeing even more crap because everybody, just like when everybody saw the social network and what happened with Facebook, everybody decided they were an entrepreneur and we're going to start a company. The same thing's about to happen with investing, right? Just because they read like this sold and like when Uber goes public and I'll say, Gary, we made, everyone's like, wait a minute, I want to do that. And so a lot of people are going to take advantage of the fact that before you had to get $25,000 and $50,000 checks from people, and not everybody had the skills to build a good enough product or be able to sell somebody to write that kind of check. But putting up a Kickstarter-like website and getting $500 or $150, we're all going to play lotto. We're all going to play lotto. Everyone is going to sit there and be like, this app, I'm going to put 100 into it, and I'm going to make 100,000. So what that's going to do is it's going to swing the supply and demand of more crap product. So I think the first thing I truly believe will happen is a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. There will be, even worse, I'm completely positive one of the products is going to blow up and do well, and then that one story is going to make everybody lose even more money, right? And I think we're going to have a lot of very average and below average product. That's what's happened. The reason we have so much bad product in the marketplace now compared to 5 or 6 years ago is there's a lot of dumb money. There's a lot of guys like me writing stupid checks because we think we're so smart. I mean, that's just, now we're going to have even more dumb money, unlimited dumb money, right? Everybody putting in their $50. I think we're going to see, and look at Kickstarter. If you watch Kickstarter, look at the products. You've got a lot of great product, but by percentage, it's changed as it's become more mass. And so I'm concerned that, I hope people I'm very worried that it's going to be a lottery tax on the dreamers. I'm very concerned that a lot of people are going to write $1,000 to $10,000 worth of checks on things that have no prayer. So I've been thinking, it's funny you brought that up. I've been thinking about this a lot. How do I help without coming across like a cynic because I'm in that game, right? I haven't really figured it out yet, but on the flip side, being an optimist, I really hope there are 20 to 100 companies that are formed that would have never had a chance because they're like 2 kids in Kansas that would have never had access to money in the way that Kickstarter has done some great stuff. What I truly think is going to happen is what happened with the internet bubble. I think up front there's going to be a frenzy. I think a lot of people are going to lose money. There'll be a correction. We'll calm down. And I think it's going to be much more beneficial and exciting in 2020 than it will be for the next half decade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great question. I think that's a blog post right there, man.
That is a good one. That's good. Thanks, Obi Trace.
Hey Gary, first of all, my name is Brian Spichko. I drove down from Vermont to see you. And I wanted to start off with a thank you because the first chapter of Jab, 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 Right Hook, we spent like $25 on advertising and got over 20,000 engagements, and Facebook was measuring our CPC at 0 cents. It's actually less than a penny. It doesn't measure anymore, and that's because of you, and I have data I want to share after. But you talk about in your content, in your books, everywhere, you talk about giving value, building an audience by giving value, and it kind of comes back in a variety of different ways, and that's what we do. Our business is in 3 pieces, and we give value in 3 very different ways to 3 very different audiences within one industry.
Okay.
But it's focused on partnerships too.
Okay.
How do you form your partnerships? How do you structure those? How do you start them? How do you get to a place where you're working with someone on a regular basis cohesively? What are you looking for?
Me, myself?
You yourself.
So partnerships come in so many ways and forms, right? Like true partnerships, I've only had 2, my dad and my brother, right? Partnerships come in the form of, me mentoring my employees, where it's not about the business, it's a relationship partnership. Are you talking about the actual business way?
No, low, I guess it's not lower than that, but less specific. So I have my business partner, and then we have a few equity partners. But one of the things that we do is we kind of act as a digital agency for people who are influential in our space. And so we started by interviewing them on our podcast, and they started asking us for things that we were already planning to give, but they started knocking on our door wanting it now. And we want to provide them now, and so we're trying to keep up with their need and grow with it. But there's all these different types of partnerships, so how do you...
So you're looking for other partners to be able to provide the services that these people want because you can't get to them right away?
Content partnerships, audience partnerships, mutual win-win, value-driven. How do you...
My biggest problem with something like that, for me, you may not have, probably won't have this problem. The biggest problem has always been for me is that there's a real specific reason that I was a D&F student. You know, people always think it was because, he must have been so entrepreneur that he didn't give a fuck, right? The truth is, I really hate details, right? I don't like them all that much. And so for me to do a true partnership, I need to dig. If I'm gonna put my name on something and say, hey, work with this guy, hey, work with this girl, I need to dig. I really need to know. And so I've stayed away from a lot of stuff because I don't have the time or the patience to actually put in all the work to then give that recommendation. To answer your question, I think first and foremost, you have to put in the work that whoever you send these people to, that they actually can execute on it, right? Because there's a lot of faking going on out there. I think if I were you, here's what I would do. I would do the work, figure out who's the best in class to provide value for the people that you're trying to send in. And then once you find them, you need to go to that individual or organization and provide them more value than they're providing to you. And so one of the great ways to do that is to do a referral to them without asking for any referral fee. Because now they don't think you're just trying to siphon a 20% bid for just sending an email, right? Like people always are like, Gary, I want to do sales for you. I'm like, I don't need your fucking sales, right? Like I'm not giving you 20%, I'm gonna get it anyway. Thanks, Joe. You know, and so I think that's what I would do. I would audit what you think is best, and then I think you should attack them and provide them more value than you're asking in return.
Thank you very much for the value.
Thanks for slapping down here. Hey, man.
My name is Andrew, and I love what you do, and I've watched at least 6+ hours of your presentations to different companies online.
Thanks,
and one of the things that you talk a lot about is context.
Yes.
Creating context with individuals, and you personalize it with even individuals in the audience. And,
yes.
I guess if you can give some additional tips to that present day, like how you do context now.
You know, context is around us at all times, right? Like even I take a very, when I sit down at this table, I looked at as many of your faces as I could to try to demo up this audience, right? Like context is at all times. You know, I'm always thinking about context. Context, I think, is the bedrock of good storytelling, good salesmanship, good providing value. So, you know, I don't know how to go deeper into what I'm talking about, but here's what I would say. It's kind of like, it's religion versus a church, right? Like the religion doesn't change, but the way you build a church has a lot to do with the community and where you are. You might build an outdoor church in a warm weather place. You know, like there's just nuances. So to me, I'm always in context mode, right? Like where you come from. That gentleman's from Vermont. That literally was a contextual aspect in my mind. Like you said Andrew, not Andy. Like I think about shit like that. I'm serious. I'm contexting at all times what people are giving me so that when I give in return, it has a better chance of landing on the spot. The reason I talk a lot about context right now is because social media is bubbled into one thing. And the difference between Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, Instagram is severe. And I see a lot of you and your organizations use products that are automated to take a picture and put it everywhere. You've got your Facebook and your Twitter attached. Facebook just asked us all to attach our Instagrams to our Facebooks. Most people said yes. They were pumped that it was going to make it easier. I said, fuck no, right? Because I know that a picture that works on Facebook acts differently than one that does on Instagram. What time you're doing it is a piece of context. You know, like when I'm trying to hit hustlers and like motivate entrepreneurs, I'm posting that thing at 11:50 Eastern if I'm trying to hit that zone, or 2 in the morning, because I'm also going to catch my West Coast peeps, because that's their mindset at that time, not necessarily 4 in the afternoon when they're getting on the bus from their regular job. So it's, you know, it's collecting data, all these different data points, they're all context. I don't know how to go any deeper than the fact that it's not, you know, you keep saying, you know, you said a couple times and saying it's made me laugh. In social media, it's not about social media, it's about life, right? Like the stuff that I talk about is life. It just happens that I like business, so I'll contextualize it in business. But most of my advice is, it's human. And that's, you just have to know how to be you don't act the same way in a funeral as you do in a business meeting, as you do in Las Vegas, even though all 8 people are the same. You have to respect context. It is the real variable.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Hey Gary, my name is Bird. Thank you so much for your work. I was Crush It to me is like reasonable doubt in the sense that in the sense that I go back and like pick up new things, as I mature and read it.
That's super flattering.
So my question is actually based off a speech I saw you do online, and you did this whole spiel about giving, and the first question the guy comes up and tries to sell you steak sauce or something like that. And so my question is, you talk a lot about giving online and the importance of just really over-delivering on that value so people feel like almost bad if they refuse buying. I want to my question is about, so offline, so when you make relationships, we're in an event here and people are going to meet people, and I think that sometimes people meet someone, they want to ask something right away, sometimes they delay it. What are your strategies or nuances for when offline in a relationship do you say, you know what, I want to make an ask with this person? How do you think about that?
It's a great question. So, I live my online life exactly the same way I live my offline life. I think it's one and the same. Look, they're saying 3 questions. I know we're all here. You slept out, I'm like, let's do 9, right? It's always happening. Listen, there are times that it's appropriate to do an ask right away. It happens. I hate it. I hate when there's a moment where something happens where I feel it's appropriate for me to ask right away because I've given up my leverage. Whoever asks first is in second place. That was good, right? Yeah. That's cool, right? Write that shit down. Tweet that shit. But I believe that, right? I truly believe that. I do believe that if I ask first, I've lost leverage in the relationship. I feel like whether I subconsciously, maybe because I'm old school, but immediately I feel like, the few times it happens, I'm like so panicky, I'm over-delivering for that person like 10x, right? Like I'm just doing shit, it's so difficult for me to go there. That's my natural demeanor. That is not everybody's natural demeanor. As a matter of fact, by default, everybody's demeanor is the other way. And I get it. Listen, every day that I'm more successful, it's easier for me to be patient, right? I get it. I'm not naive, but even when I wasn't, this was my game because I know the game is long. I'm not patient because I can afford to be. I'm patient because the game is played a lot longer than we think about it. You're going to be a professional. You're going to be a human being for your whole life, right? Like everybody in this room, except for a couple of youngsters in the crowd, are on the clock right now until it's over. So, I think that there's a lot of ways to provide value. It's not just about buying and selling. One thing that I think the people that do it the best is they collect people and they do a lot of matchmaking. I think that a lot of people do that poorly. They're literally collecting people just to do matchmaking for the sake of having that leverage. I think we can smell that. And I think that one thing I can leave you with is please remember that intent deeply matters. Your intentions is something we can actually feel. It's how humans are. Our bullshit radars are much better than we give each other credit for. I think the reason for me it's always worked is my intent is pure. Because just because I give, and this is where I think people get confused. New York Times did a huge profile of me in October about me in this book, and I think they took a little bit of a cynical shot at me, because in one part they were like, everything Gary does is with the intent to sell them on something eventually, and I was like, that's a really sad way to look at it. Here's how I look at it. I give. I did that interview. I did this tonight. I give. I meet with people to talk about their football player's friend, movie. I give because it enables me to have the opportunity to maybe ask. I'm not entitled. Just because I gave doesn't mean now you owe. I give because I don't even want to, I'm going to go really real with you. The reason I give is so insane, it's going to make some of your heads spin right now. Here's why I love to give, more than anything else. I give for one major reason. First of all, let me say this. I don't need any of you, and I'm talking about the camera. I'm going to get mine. I'm just that good, okay? So I'm not doing it because I need to get something. I'm doing it for such a crazy reason. The reason I want to give so much is in case something insane happens. And when I mean insane, I mean like World War III. The reason I like to give is because if I give, if a fucking bomb blows up half of America, and me and my family are on the West Coast, and I need to shack up with one of you, I really hope that I gave to give me a chance to live in your fucking basement. Or, and I know that's funny, or in a more real way that I'm very scared of, if I really give, if I get paralyzed in a car accident, because the one thing I hate the most about traveling so much is when other people are driving. I don't like not being in control like that. I always, and these fuckers look at their phone the whole time. I'm like, motherfucker, please look at the road. If I get hurt, I hope that I gave so much to so many people that if my daughter, what if me and Lizzie are going on vacation in Turks and Caicos in a couple weeks, if that plane goes down and I have 2 young children, I'm serious. I know it's dark and it's weird, but that's why I like giving, because it gives me peace to know that I've given to so many people. Some of those fucking thousands of people are gonna step up and help Misha or this and that. It's good to give, it's leverage, it's the right thing. And so, to me, the answer to your question is, you can do it, you just need to recognize what's happening, which is you go into second place.
Yeah.
If I'm always asking, I can't default into thinking that somebody's got my back.
Yeah.
So there's bigger things than that quick sale. And so you need to figure out what you can provide value in. And we can all provide value. We really can. You can provide value in crazy ways. Just wait. When I was a kid, I just shoveled people's driveways for them on the snow store. I had leverage now with my neighbor if I needed some help. I just always been there. Sometimes I charged.
Hey Gary, my name is Joe. You probably don't remember this, but you had dinner with me and about 15 coworkers at our company headquarters. And I don't get paid a lot, but that was a really awesome perk. And yeah, Institute.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
And it was a raise, man.
And I took like three pages of notes when I got home. Awesome night, but my question is, how do you evaluate talent, and how do you bring the right people on your team and bet on the right people, when you're going from 0 to 50?
There's an old liquor salesman when I was 16 that said something. This guy was an idiot. He was a pretty bad human being, and I basically dislike him. But he said one thing to me when I was 16, schlepping cases. I was carrying a case of Absolute Vodka 1.75 to the liquor section, and he stopped me. He was a real old, scummy dude, but he stopped me and we had a quick little talk, and he said something to me that I'll never forget, and I've translated it into my own version, and it's the answer to your question. He said, Gary, he goes, you don't know what you have until you sleep with it. That's the kind of dude he was. And that's the answer to your question. The way I evaluate talent is I try my best to intuitively feel like, yeah, she's got it. Let's give her a shot. But the truth is, until she walks in and executes for 30 days, I really don't know. And you really know pretty quickly once they're in, but evaluating talent up front is very difficult. I feel like I have the best people skills ever. I can feel, but I've been wrong. And so that's defaulting me into this notion of try your best. It's not about hiring, it's about firing. That's the key. It's not about who you let in, it's how you get them out if they're not right. That's the skill that we should all be focusing on, because you're gonna miss too many in the upfront. And so, that's how I do it. I'm an optimist. I'm a half glass full guy. Nobody wants me interviewing at VaynerMedia because people walk in, they have no skills. I'm like, but I feel it. This kid's got it. They're like, motherfucker, he can't type. I'm like, we'll teach him. Once we teach him, he's gonna be a ninja. I'm bad. I think everybody can do it. So they've kind of tried to take me out of the equation of hiring at Vayner, but then I always clown them but I hired you, fuckface. So the real answer to your question is, I don't know. I go by intuition. I don't even think about it because I'm not worried about that part. I'm worried about the second. The second chess move is once you come in, evaluating that I know. Once you're in my walls, I know. I know what good work is. I know what hustle is. I know what execution is. I know how you treat the other boys and girls in the office is. I know all that. So it's easy for me to quickly evaluate after the fact. I'm not scared of somebody sneaking in. I'm scared of somebody staying.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Let's read the quote right there.
Hi,
Hey, darling.
Vaynerchuk. My name is
I'll be back home in the night.
So my question was, recently I read this article on Time magazine, and it basically was talking about Facebook and how they predicted that Facebook would be dead in 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
And I guess my question to you is whether or not you feel that social media is limited in our time and our generation, or whether or not, it's something that's still evolving and will kind of last for a long time.
So you're equating Facebook to social media. Are you asking me, do I think Facebook plays long term, or does social play long term?
Both.
Okay, so here's how I look at Facebook. Last time I checked, Facebook bought Instagram. Instagram is Facebook to all the people that say Facebook is dead, right? So I think Facebook's, I just wrote an article on LinkedIn today about this, which is, here's my point of view on this. All of us, when we're in our teens and our 20s, our job is to go to every new club, every new restaurant. You're just checking everything out. It's how we roll. Then, when you get into your early 30s, mid-30s, you settle down, you get married, you and your significant other, you've got your 4 favorite spots, right? Especially in your 40s and 50s, you've got your favorite spots. You go to your same 3 to 4 or 5 restaurants. It's how you roll. That's what I think is going to happen to Facebook. I don't know what the number is. I'm actually desperately trying to figure this out so I can really put my stamp on it. But let's call it 34, 32. Everybody from 32, 34 and above, I think stays on Facebook way longer than people think, as long as they keep doing the right thing. Because, the 48-year-old aunt and the 52-year-old grandparent that are on these platforms, they need all their friends to move to Snapchat or Vine or all these other things. And that's going to take a lot more work than people think. It took them 4 fucking years to get comfortable on Facebook. They're not going to run so fast. Underneath, that makes sense. But this is, again, headline reading. Yes, when you're 22, you don't want to go to the same club that your mom's at, right? So, of course, you're going to go to Vine and Snapchat and Instagram. But Facebook bought Instagram. I mean, it's crazy to sleep on Facebook. Zucks is a much smarter, much better executor than I think people realize. I think he's a very strong CEO. I think they'll be fine-ish. It could change. I mean, things move so quickly. But there was a reason Friendster died, if you want to take it old school. Friendster died because they couldn't scale. The servers weren't up, and for some of you old cats in here like me, it just was too slow. It just broke. It broke. That's why they fucking lost. Next, MySpace, they sold it to a big-ass company that didn't know what to do with it. That's why it lost. So, Facebook's very different. As far as social, we will never, the cat's out of the bag, we will never stop communicating with each other in picture and word form. That game is over. It stays forever.
Thank you so much.
Because we have. They were called books. We can just all do it now.
Hi, Gary. I have a question about fundraising.
Sure, what's your name?
My name is Cynthia, and I'm the founder of a consumer goods company. And unfortunately, the category is banned on Kickstarter, which is one of the better crowdfunding sites. And even on Kickstarter, the maximum amount you can raise is around $50,000. And the barrier to entry to launch a consumer goods brand, at least 1 to 2 products, is well more than $50,000. That being said, the early stage VCs have been tapped out by Dollar Shave, Harry's, and Bevel, another one. So I was just wondering what your advice is. My team is really good. We already had an exit to P&G at our last company, but yeah, it's the fundraising that's been the most challenging. We do have interest from Barney's, but then you're going the traditional route. You are,
Do you want to sell the product direct to consumer, or do you want retail?
Multi-channel, but primarily e-commerce.
So, I think I've said this a couple times. I haven't said it a lot publicly, but I'll give you a really interesting answer. The reason I started Vaynermedia 4 years ago is it's a 10 to 15 year plan for me to start consumer packaged good products. So the way I think I'm going to buy the New York Jets is by launching consumer packaged goods. When I look at how I'm going to make my billions, I don't see hedge fund, I don't see Facebook, I see vitamin water and Grey Goose and Chobani yogurt. So, because I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this space, this is one of those times where you said, don't ask for his money, but I'll go reverse. I've got a network of CPG-centric angel investor thinkers. I'll love to take your card and introduce you. The problem is there's not a lot of people right now worried about that space, but I was the first investor in Birchbox. Well, I'm a retailer at heart, right? So consumer packaged goods is like where I want to roll. And so I don't think the early stage VCs are tapped out by Warby or Harry's, or it's Dollar Shave. There's still plenty of room now. If you're playing directly in men's kind of like grooming, maybe, is that what you're playing?
Yeah, men's grooming.
So and then you've got other, like L'Oreal's launched Baxter. I mean, like it's
They acquired Baxter, yeah.
What's that?
They acquired
That's right. And so you're talking about, it's a crowded space, no question. But I'd be more than happy to take a look.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for her. How much did you get for the ticket?
$30?
Ticket?
Here?
Yeah, 30
He's a
bucks.
legend in the marketing world.
30 bucks, look at that. You got more than
Solid
$30
ROI.
right there.
Well, not really. She did a step 0 and emailed me.
Yeah, she had a better chance with that stuff.
That's true.
10%, James. 10%. No, we'll never keep it this time. Thanks for the support, though.
Anybody else want to ask a question? You can go free form from your seat. I'll answer a couple more. Yes, sir.
So I have a brand.
What's your name?
Stefan Lobel.
Pleasure.
So I have a brand that it's an apparel brand that deals with like adventure and having a really busy life and rolling around in the park one day with my kid and then wearing the same clothes to work like right after, right?
Okay.
So there's a big opportunity for social media because I have people wearing my clothes like in Africa, climbing mountains, going to the office next day. Great, right?
In the same clothes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I need
no shower or shower?
I assume they're wearing underwear.
Shower.
But I mean, underwear is the key. But so I did really well on Kickstarter with the video, and I think I have a good voice for blogging and writing. One of the things I'm hesitating is, if I'm writing about my life, it's part business.
Yep.
Part adventure apparel.
Yep.
Part kid.
Yep.
Oh, and you go back to business, there's a lot of fear in there, right? So you put all that together, and when you read about blogging, they're like, focus. Oh, you're starting a blog. Make that blog focused on a very concise topic. And I'm like, that's not me, that's not my life, and that's not my voice. So do I focus, or do I just play it as it is?
I mean, you're talking to the guy who literally, when he did his wine show and when he blogged and we put out tweets, not only talked about wine, but business. I mean, when I started segueing to business talk, not just wine, everybody was telling me how stupid I was. Like, you're the wine guy, stay the wine guy. I'm like, no, I'm the Jets fan, wrestling fan. I think the more people can get, listen, there are people that buy my books because I'm a Jets fan, because I like root beer, because I'm a family guy. Like, I think the more chapters of your soul that you can share with the audience, the more they're going to find reasons to like you. I really believe that. I'm a humongous fan of it being about you and not being about the niche. When people email me, they're like, hey Gary, I get this question 50 times a day, and I answer it the same way. Hey Gary, Jose Johnson here. I want to do a thing based on tuxedos. Should I buy the URL Mr. Tuxedo Man? Or should I be josejohnson.co? And I'm always like, Jose Johnson, because you're Mr. Tuxedo Man now, but you might want to be something else. But you're always Jose Johnson. I think you're all in on, I'm a big fan, I can tell even by your vibe. Just talk about all your stuff, talk about everything. I love talking about the fact that I peed my bed when I was 12. That's a part of me, right? Like, talk about everything. I think it's a very important thing.
All right, you broke the ice. Thank you.
Yeah.
In that form, like you told them to put out content, different type of content. Do they have to be consistent? Like, do you have to post, a meeting every day at 6 p.m. or could you switch that up also?
I love using exercise as the analogy. I think a lot of you know that. You don't have to do shit, but if you do it every day, you have more at-bats to win. Which is why, if you're talking about a lot of things, sometimes you're burned out to talk about the apparel one more time, but your daughter did something or your son did something really funny that might be something. Or you want to socially commentate on the Golden Globes last night. Like, the more you're just about yourself, listen, there's never a day that you go by where you have nothing to talk about. You don't go a whole fucking day not talking about, just silent, But when you may go a whole day without talking about a subject matter. So the more you open it up about everything, first of all, it makes you dramatically more human. Now, do I think you should have, unless you want to be a personal brand, just like celebrity for sake of celebrity person, I do think you should have a majority of it in a genre. And I think consistency matters. I mean, I did Wine Library TV every day, 5 days a week for 5.5 years. And by the way, did it for 19 months straight before anybody gave a fuck. So it's not only consistency, it's perseverance up front when nobody gives a shit. Cool. Just show me ladies first, behind you and then you.
Chivalry isn't dead. Not yet, right?
Hi, how would you suggest to convince Amanda?
Amanda.
Nice to meet you. How would you convince top management in regulated industries such as healthcare to kind of move forward in social media and other kinds of trends that in social media that are, saying?
I can give you a really good answer because I've spent a lot of time on this. And we have a health club client for a little while. We do a lot of pharma, and we do a lot of alcohol. It's very hard. It's very, very hard, especially heavily regulated. It's hard in general for corporate America or big companies. It's extremely hard in regulation. I think the number one thing you can do, and the only thing that I've seen work consistently, is full staff, full company, education, keynote talks, like education. How do we solve all our problems? We get educated, right? And so it's been stunning to me that like a talk that I gave at Camel's Soup, or at Merck led to it. And so like if you really have a lot of passion for it, setting up a digital day where you bring in a lawyer from something that's a competitor or something. So if you're in healthcare, maybe bring in a financial service lawyer from Citi that talks about their social media policy. You map it. You bring in a speaker that looks like me. Like I go and I don't give a fuck. I want to be historically legacy correct. I don't want their business. So you need people to talk the truth. But the only thing that I've seen move a couple of these companies that I've seen, in my eyes, I've seen it happen, has been this education forum, getting senior leadership, when they do their offsites, getting the right, don't get the safe speaker, don't get the safe, I think that has really been the biggest way I've seen it actually happen.
And if they're not willing to do that, and then they are willing to get involved in social media in some way, and then elevating it to the next level while trying to follow trends at the same time, which say, move to Pinterest or be more human in your voice, whereas they are not wanting to do something that aligns with those kinds of trends, what would you say?
I would say get another job. I'm not even joking. It's funny, that was like a funny thing to say. I mean, that's serious.
I'm looking.
It's very, very hard to move it if somebody's not willing to move. Here's the best piece of advice in your situation. I think it's a really good piece of advice. Don't waver from what you believe and keep over communicating. Here's why. You're historically going to be right. And those people aren't going to be gone forever. They're going to leave that company, go somewhere else, where now 3 years from now it's more accepted, and they're going to remember that you were historically right, and they're going to bring you in to empower you. That is a really good way to think about it.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Do you think Snapchat marketing is the new wave of social media marketing?
I think Snapchat marketing for a demo that's 12 to 25 can be highly effective because people are actually paying attention to the content, right? I mean, when you look at a snap, you're actually consuming it because you know it's going to disappear. That was the psychology that I was always interested in. When I see something on Facebook and Twitter, I think I'm going to see it again. I think I can come back to it. I think somebody else is going to retweet it. I think it's going to come to me again. I know when I hold down that button, I'm only going to see it for these 9-10 seconds, and then I'm gone. I've done some really effective marketing on Snapchat. It works. People are paying attention. It's not how many followers you have, it's how many pay attention and convert. And that's why Snapchat works.
Yes, sir. My name is Curtis Jewell, and you were mentioning the power of personal branding.
Yes.
Right? I work for a digital agency that's named for our CEO, but he's very introverted. So he's not using that personal brand, yet I'm here.
Bad choice of brand name.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like I'm here representing the company and want to also, leverage my own personal brand.
Sure.
But again, I'm representing his as well. It's kind of tricky. I'm just not sure how to break through that without doing disrespect to the company.
That's a really good question. I'm really struggling right now at Vayner because a lot of my employees are like, hey, I've been asked to be on this panel, can I speak? And I'm saying no. And I'm super scared that they think that I'm trying to suppress them so they can't build up their game. The reason I'm doing that is I don't feel confident yet that everybody in my organization has their POV down on everything. If they're on stage and say, yeah, Snapchat's bad, that automatically, even if it's Carol or Susie or Tommy or Johnny, that reflects on me and I can't have anything be wrong. Not the way we're trying to roll, right? Yeah, I get it, man. It's really, really tough. It's really tough. I let my employees do whatever. I want them to all be bigger than me and what have you because I believe in capitalism. Suppressing people from not being able to do their thing, that's communism. I came from that. It's bad. So, I think the number one way to fix every issue in the world is communication. If this is something that's deep in your heart, I would go and have a talk with your CEO and be like, listen, I want to put out videos, I want to do blogs. I'm aware that sets up a scenario where I may get recruited. But for the time being, I think it's also going to bring in a lot of business for you. Maybe if it does, you can do better for me. Maybe, I don't know how you feel. Maybe you love this dude, you hate this dude. I don't know how you feel. But maybe you could say to them, listen, I want to just do the best job I can so I can be your right-hand man. I don't want my own agency. I don't want to work anywhere else. I just think that, listen, this is an answer for everybody. Something weird's been going on. This has been happening a lot in my life lately. I've always been a big proponent of over-communicating. There's been some really highly sensitive issues for employees with family, and my own family, where I've been pushing this. It's just stunning. It always works. Either you're gonna speed up the bad thing, or it's gonna make it way better. And so, I would tell you if this is a real thing in your heart, you should have a talk.
Will do.
Yeah, man. Thanks. All right, this is the last one.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
So I'm Mike Ambassador Brimmy, and I'm working on a startup called Brand Inside of a Brand.
Brand inside of a brand.
So basically what I'm looking to do is
Is that based on the last question we just had?
Was that? Well, it's interesting because basically what I'm looking to do is take companies and help them to turn their actual employees into a marketing arm for them.
That's a very big movement right now. There's a ton of people in this space right now.
And that's where I'm trying to connect. The question for you is connecting.
Do you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, employee advocacy social chorus, digital dynamic signal.
That's right.
So some of those folks, which in those cases, a lot of times they provide a platform, but not necessarily the strategy for, hey, company, let me take you through the steps of how you actually
Okay, so
do
you
this.
want to do the VaynerMedia version. You don't want to build the product. You want to do the consulting and strategy.
Yes, and
the number one thing you should do is reach out to Social Chorus and Dynamic Signal and Marcus Nelson, my boy who's doing one too, and all these people, and ask them how they feel about that. Because they're probably going to say, no, our account people are doing that. But it'd be interesting for me to see how they would respond to that. Because they may actually want to support you because you'd be a third party, not just them, and that would rise all ships.
Excellent, yeah. What I look at that's kind of differentiation is I was actually that employee. I was a disgruntled employee who became a brand ambassador, and that changed everything.
Sure.
And then I started working on revamping the program, and that totally changed
Let me tell you guys something in here. The number one thing I believe in more than anything if you want to start a business is to scratch your own itch. So when I hear you say that already makes me dramatically more confident because you scratched your own itch. You did it. You lived it. Number two, I would highly recommend blogging and putting out a lot of content. I think the biggest mistake people have when they want to consult or do human stuff is they think that their IP, their ideas, is what they are selling and they hold it. I think you go completely the other way. I mean, VaynerMedia has gone from 20 to 300 employees, pretty much predicated on the strategy that I put out on a $20 book, right? Like I just put it out there. I think one thing you should really give a lot of thought to is put it out there, write blog posts, review Social Course, review Dynamics, review Markets, like brand yourself as that guy in that space, put out lots of content on your thoughts, put out fake scenarios that you know are real scenarios. Right. I think that content has, you're always everybody in this room, you're always one blog post away from changing your whole business. You really are. It's rare, but if you're good enough, it might not change your whole business, it just might lead to your first client, which starts your business.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, I really want to thank Gary for coming out here.
All right, before everybody leaves, can I just say one thing? I know a lot of people here have books and want to take a quick picture. I just ran so much late. I need to run out tonight. I'm so sorry. You can stop by my office next week if you want, but I have to go. Well,
Yeah.
If somebody wants to sweep up real quick, I feel bad.